understand you're still in the room?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your cooperation. And you folks were going to check on something, and is that issue resolved, or do we have to do any further work on it?
No, everything's fine, thank you.
All right, there's a pending request. Are you folks ready to dispose of that?
Yes, I just would like to ask the witness one question. And
Oh, okay, all right.
Ms. Gagne, over the recess, were you able to verify that the time card that's been shown to you by the defense for the time period of Monday, October 14, 2013 to Sunday, October 27, 2013 is the same as the records you have on the computer file at Montrose?
Yes.
At this time, the state has no objection.
All right, Defense Exhibit I is received in evidence. Any other questions, Mr. Epple?
I guess just to follow up on something you had started, is there anything you wanted to explain relative to any times that are on the time card that have an asterisk next to it in particular?
Yes, that means that we had to put that time in. It was missing from the time clock.
I guess, was there anything else you wanted to say in terms of any particulars of this or any time card?
No.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Any redirect examination?
Just briefly, in regards to what you were saying, the amendments or the changes, they're marked by a symbol on this time card, which I'm referring to as defense I in evidence. And how are those additions marked?
They have a little asterisk by them.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any recross examination?
No, thank you.
Are there any juror questions? Counsel, please approach. I have some questions I would read to you. After I read a question, I will tell you that you can answer the question. You can then look to the jury and answer the question. If you look back to me as you're doing right now, I'll take that as a signal that you're finished answering the question. I'll go on to the next question. After the last question, I'll see if the attorneys have any follow-up questions.
Okay.
And if you would like me to read a question again, just let me know and I'll be happy to do that. All right? The first question reads, if an employee decides to leave from work prior to their shift end, who gets notified? You may answer the question.
Generally, the department head, if that person is there. Otherwise, myself or one of the supervisors on duty at the time is supposed to be notified.
All right, the next question reads, can you explain why no breaks or lunch hour was taken on February 8, 2014, parentheses 7:06 to 14:34 only? And if you'd like to look at the time record, you can do that.
That's okay.
Oh.
Sometimes people don't take breaks. We don't regulate that. That's up to them. We tell them they're supposed to take a break, but if they don't take a break, we don't dock their time. That's just how it works out. Sometimes they just work straight through because they want to be done. It's their decision. They are allotted time for a break.
The next question reads, do you know what was his start time on February 8, 2014? And again, if you want to review the record, you can.
Well,
It's up to you.
okay.
Yeah. Here you go. You want me to take it out for you?
No, it's okay.
Okay,
I can do
all
that.
right.
However you like it.
Okay, there you go.
Expedite that. February 8th. February 8th. He clocked in at 7:06. As I mentioned before, depending on which side of the bakery they work on, some people come in earlier, some people come in later. We are not that strict with when people arrive for their work as long as they get it done. If the department head has a problem, they bring it up with the individual at that time. So around 7 o'clock is probably when he was scheduled to be. Sometimes they'll come in earlier, sometimes a little bit later.
Right, I can take that back for you. Thank you so much. And then the last question reads, are employees' work schedules on a set schedule, or does it vary from week to week or day to day? You may answer the question.
Generally on a set schedule of when they start within reason. As I mentioned previously, sometimes they'll get done sooner than other days depending on what they have put in play for the day. They have to finish wrapping, packaging, displaying the products. So that can vary from day to day. But generally the start time is within a certain parameter depending on which side of the bakery they work on.
All right. Any follow-up questions, Ms. Jones?
Briefly. Ms. Gagne, you responded to the juror's question regarding if the employee decides to leave, who do they notify? You indicated a supervisor or you. In the bakery department, who is that person in 2014?
Dave Rasmussen.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Defense has no question.
All right. Thank you very much. You are excused. Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. The state will be calling Anthony Earls to the stand.
All right. the record reflect that Mr. Earls is returning to the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Mr. Earls has previously been called to testify during this proceeding, and he's returning to the witness stand. You may approach. Thank you so much, and you may be seated. And the record reflect that he was previously placed under oath, and you understand that you are still under oath?
Yes, sir.
And for our records, would you please state your name?
Sure. Anthony Fred Earls.
Thank you very much. You may continue with your examination of the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. No, Mr. Earls, I think where we left off at, we were discussing the items that you put into a dry box that you received from Officer Bonacorsi in the early morning hours of Friday. Yeah, that's correct. Early morning hours of Friday, in February of 2014. Recall that?
Yes.
Now, I think one of the areas we left off at was that hooded sweater. I think we just finished discussing that. But with respect to the hooded sweater, at some point, well, after the hooded sweater, you took the photographs that we had shown earlier. What did you do with that sweater?
Okay, so following the photography, I actually had it laying out as you saw in the photographs on some paper. So then recovered any hairs or fibers that may have been visible and obvious with the white light on the item. So we used forceps or like tweezers, but they're sterile, they're clean, unused. Placed them in any hairs and fibers into a little small envelope, and then used a method called tape lifting. It's similar to a lint brush that you would use to clean off of your clothes, the lint or hairs, and you use it to roll over the items, and in this case the jacket or the hooded sweatshirt was also rolled over, and then those pieces of tape are placed onto a piece of mylar, or like the overhead transparency you used to use in school, placed onto that, sticky side down, and then it has collected any trace evidence that's on the exterior surfaces of the item.
And do you mark the sticky tape you mentioned? Do you mark that in any way once you place it face down, sticky side of the mylar?
Yes, I do. So, for example, you want to check every surface. So you would do the front of the jacket, exterior, flip it over, take your photographs, then you would do the exterior, rear, then you would take the jacket, turn it inside out, you would do the same thing, repeat interior, front, interior, back. And then you would label each one of those tapes separately.
Yeah, and you did that in this case?
Yes.
Now, what is your title again, Mr. Earls?
Police Evidence Specialist.
Now, as a police evidence specialist, and just based on your training, your education, and your work experience, are you, or have you noted a difference in appearance between, well, first of all, have you collected hairs in the past?
Yes.
And prior to 2014, how many times have you collected trace evidence such as hairs?
Probably hundreds.
Off of clothing or material?
Or at a crime scene, for example.
Or at a crime scene.
Hundreds, probably.
And are you trained, or have you received training as well as education, and based on your experience as an evidence specialist, been able to determine just by the appearance a difference between an animal hair such as a canine versus human hair?
Well, I mean, most people can recognize a dog's hair or a cat's hair versus a human hair, but
and what is the difference?
just the appearance. You know, if it's a long-haired cat, it's going to have longer hair. If it's a short-haired dog, like everyone has seen, gets all over your clothing, the hair. So it's going to be short and bristly. So depending on from where the body it comes.
Yeah, and how does that differ from human hair in appearance?
Just well, that's a kind of a vague question, but.
Well, how do you tell the difference between that and human hair?
Well, visually, it would have to be completely different than the person's human hair that we're comparing to, for example. But you would need to look at it under a microscope to actually see if there's actually certain characteristics that characterize it with animal hair versus human hair.
Now, do you recall approximately how many hairs you would have recovered from the gray hoodie sweater that you just talked about?
I think there are about 50 that were recovered using the forceps.
50 individual hairs.
Correct. And then there was more that were on the actual tape lifts.
And what appearance, if any, did the 50 individual hairs that you recovered from the forceps have with you when you saw it?
Well, some of them appeared to be what I would consider dog hairs.
And you have a permission to publish, this is already in evidence, this exhibits 246 and 247.
Permission granted.
Mr. Earl, I'm showing you what is in evidence in State's Exhibit 246. Is this the gray hoodie that we're talking about?
Yes, it is.
And when you say you remove approximately 50 hairs individually with forceps or tweezers, is it depicted on this photograph where you would have got those hairs from?
If it was on the inside, then of course it would not be depicted as much in this photograph.
So some of them were on the inside of the sweater?
If I recall correctly, yes, some on the exterior and some on the interior.
And then after you had recovered the hairs from the sweater, what did you do with the sweater?
Okay, so following that, some of the areas of stains that you see, especially on the sleeves, were swabbed with cotton swabs and tested.
Are you talking about the presumptive test?
Yes.
And anything else? Did you do anything else with respect to this hooded sweater?
I then actually used a forensic light source to visualize, to look for any other stains that may not be visible with a white light.
And after that, any other tests conducted on this?
No, not by me.
And what did you end up doing with the sweater?
And then I submitted that as evidence, wrapped it in that paper so it would keep everything together.
Okay. And when you say you submitted it as evidence, can you tell us what you mean by that?
Sure. So once it's been totally documented, all the trace evidence has potentially been removed, then the item, it's now dry, is folded up nicely within the paper and then placed into a container and then sealed by me and submitted as evidence for storage.
And when you say container, what are you referring to as a container?
Typically it's a paper product, so it's either a box, envelope, or a bag, depending on the size of the item.
Okay, and in this case, with this particular item?
I don't recall if I used a large grocery bag size or if I used an actual box.
And then when you say you submitted it into evidence, that's still police talk, so what does that mean in layperson's terms?
Okay, so I securely transport the item. Once I have secured it within its packaging and sealed the evidence tape, then transport that securely to the Wailuku police station, where it is then placed into a locked cabinet or locker, and then the key is dropped into evidence so that the evidence custodian will then retrieve it later on and then do their processing of it as well.
Now, once you place this particular evidence, the gray hooded sweater, into the evidence locker, you remove the key. Do you have any more access to that individual sweater at that time?
At that time, no. Once I drop that key, I can't retrieve that key back.
And I think we discussed earlier, we talked about the black skirt, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and let me just make this clear. When you received the sweater, the skirt, and the blue tank top and the blanket, the items that you testified previously that were wet and put in the dry the drying cabinets. You took those, did you say you took those out of a secure freezer at the forensic facility?
Yes, the refrigerator.
Or the refrigerator?
Yes.
Okay. Now, prior to going into the refrigerator, was that when Officer Bonacarsi would have given you these items or passed it on to you?
Yes.
So from the time they went from the secured refrigerator to the dry box, did anyone have access other than yourself to those items at that time?
No, they did not.
And starting with the sweater, from the time the sweater went from the drying box at the forensic facility to the evidence storage that you described, that you just described, did anyone have access to this gray hoodie sweater at that time?
No, again, it is a secured facility.
Now, with respect to the black skirt that I believe you did display the actual item in front of the ladies and gentlemen here, and I want to move ahead with that. You already testified that you did conduct presumptive testing on the skirt. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You also testified you did swabbings on the skirt as well?
Yes, sir.
And how did you mark the swabbed areas that you took on the skirt?
With a black Sharpie permanent marker.
Okay, you showed that to us earlier, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, once you did the presumptive testing on the skirt, what did you do with the black skirt?
Packaged it back up in the original packaging, and again, sealed everything with evidence tape, initialed it, dated when I sealed it, submitted it as evidence again to the evidence custodian.
And did you do that in the same method and manner as you did the gray hoodie sweater?
Yes, I did.
And did anyone have access to it from the time you received it, put it in the secured refrigerator, and then later in the drying cabinet, and then take it to the storage or the evidence storage area? Had anyone other than yourself had access to that?
No.
And one other question I was going to ask you about that. Is there a reason why when you took the photograph, and I'm going to refer to you have permission to publish this Exhibit 74.
Permission granted.
And Mr. Earl, showing you what is in evidence is case Exhibit 74. You testified earlier that you placed white paper between, I guess, the two cloths of the skirt. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why did you place the white paper there in that manner?
As the photograph shows, it just makes it easier to see because you have the skirt is two pieces of fabric, basically front, back, or side, side, and if it's together, you won't be able to visualize any of the holes. So the white paper is just inserted, just like I did in court last week with the file folder. Inserting it between just gives you contrast.
Did this aid you in seeing the holes in the skirt that you described earlier?
Yes, it did.
And turning your attention to the green blanket that again you testified about last week. I think you testified that you also circled areas where you swabbed and conducted presumptive tests. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Did you also do tape lifts on the blanket like you did on the light gray sweater hoodie?
Yes, I did.
And where did you do that?
I'm sorry, where?
What portions of the blanket did you do that on?
As much as I could actually reach across. So
Pretty much
most
the
of
entire-
it, yes.
The entire blanket?
Yes.
almost? Was that both sides or just one?
Both sides, yes.
And once you conducted, or once you did remove, What is, if there was any trace evidence as well as conducting the presumptive test, what did you do with the blanket?
Okay, so following the photography, again, removing any obvious hairs or fibers with tweezers, placing them in a separate envelope, then doing the tape lifts on the side that's up, that's been photographed. And then once that's done, flip the item over and then repeat. And then fold this item, the blanket for example, into that brown paper that it was laying on and package that.
Now, when you're doing, when you're processing the green blanket, by that time, after removing it from the drying cabinet, was it already dry?
Yes.
And what did you do with the blanket after you finished processing?
Again, submitted that as evidence to the Wailuku police station.
In the same manner that you did the gray hoodie sweater and the black skirt?
Actually, no, because that one I had to do in person because it was such a large container. So it would not fit into the locker.
So can you describe how you handled that?
So I had to contact the evidence custodians to meet them personally, and then I signed that over to them.
Okay, and is that, so would that be a hand-to-hand transfer?
Yes.
And when you say you signed it over to them, what do you mean by that?
On the chain of custody, again, any item that is moved from when it is taken into police custody until it arrives here in court has to be documented as who handled it, the date and time they receive it, and then who they hand it off to for other analysis or whatever purposes.
It's 292.
Stephanie, can I look at 292, that's the blanket. Or I can do that for lunch. I'll do that for lunch. It's in the box, so I figure, I'll just do that for lunch. Okay, we're gonna return to the blanket. Now, with respect to, what is it?
268 and 269.
Let me turn your attention to the pair of black pants that you inventoried from Officer Bonaforte. What did you do after you removed the pair of black jeans or black pants from the drying cabinet?
Okay, just with every other item, place that item on to an area so that I can actually photograph actually all sides, if at all possible. And you've, I don't know, have we published the photographs of the black jeans yet? I don't recall.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so again, once the photography is done, then I would then take each item with tweezers and try to lift any kind of hairs or fibers that are visible, and then use tape lifts as well.
And did you conduct any presumptive testing on the black pants?
Yes, I did.
And after conducting presumptive testing on the black pants and going through your procedure to recover, if any, trace evidence, what did you do with black jeans?
Once every surface was done and all the trace evidence had been collected, as well as then any other swabbing had been done, then the item was rolled up into that paper and then packaged and sealed and transmitted to the Wailuku police station.
Okay. Now I want to turn your attention to the blue tank top.
Photos 86 to 90.
What exhibit do you have here?
The physical?
Yeah.
287.
And the others 209 is the other one.
And again, the black jeans are 289.
And exhibits 287, which You know, with respect to the blue tank top, I believe you already, because we already went over that, but as far, you already testified that you did conduct presumptive testing on the blue tank top.
Yes, I did.
And did you go through the photographs of that?
I think so, yes.
Okay, with it to the inside and the outside as well?
Correct.
And what did you do to the blue tank top after you had conducted the presumptive test as well as trace evidence procedure?
So once all of the trace evidence was collected and then any swabbing was conducted, the item was then wrapped up in the paper upon which it lay and then folded and placed into packaging and again sealed and transported to the Wailuku police station for storage.
Now, and if you don't have the record there, we can do this after lunch, but as far as the black pants, blue tank top, the green blanket, the black skirt, and the gray hooded sweater, did you submit all of those into the evidence storage on the same day or these different days?
I would assume different days because the actual processing went over weeks.
And as well as the rolls of tape, were they in the? Did you place those in the drying cabinet as well? The 2 rolls of tape that you referred to last week.
Yeah, they were air dried in the air conditioned lab on the bench.
So they didn't go into the drying cabinet.
Correct.
What did you do with the rolls of tape after you had attempted fingerprinting them and removing the tape from one of the rolls?
Okay, those were again once they were dried, photographed, and attempted fingerprinting were placed within that paper bag you saw last week, and then sealed and then submitted as evidence to the Wailuku police station.
Okay. And when you submit those as evidence, is there a paper trail or a paper record of that?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us how that is generated when you submit that into the evidence storage, other than a hand-to-hand transfer like you did with the green blanket?
Okay, so each item is entered into the computer, and then I print a voucher or evidence and property report that describes what the item is, when it was collected, who collected it. In that case, I recovered it from Officer Bonacorsi. But then it also has a chain of custody that will then show that I am the one who is submitting that evidence into storage. And then every time it is taken out of storage, again, whoever has to handle it has to assign the chain of custody.
Now, I'm going to move ahead a little bit, Ms. Earls, and ask that you turn your attention to, are you familiar with a government entity or department known as JPAC?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of that acronym, JPAC?
Okay, that is the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command, and we dealt with the Central Identification Laboratory, which is part of JPAC.
And do you know where that laboratory is located?
Hickam Air Force Base in Honolulu.
And have you, prior to this case involving Charlie Scott, have you ever had occasion to submit evidence from the Maui Police Department to, and I'm going to use the acronym JPAC?
Yes, we have.
And in this instance, with respect to this particular case involving Charlie Scott, did you submit evidence to JPAC?
Yes, I did.
And do you know what the purpose for that was?
Yes.
Hey, can you tell us, please?
It was forensic anthropological analysis.
And do you recall which evidence, as you sit there right now, do you recall which evidence that you submitted to JPAC?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And approximately when would this have been?
That was March 22nd when I packaged it up, and it's shipped out, I think, on the 24th, and then they received it on the 25th.
And how do you know they received it?
because we send our packages secured through FedEx, so we get delivery confirmation. And again, when they receive it, they sign that chain of custody.
And I can just make the record complete, is that 2014?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Thanks. And do you recall which evidence you submitted to JPAC?
Yes, I do.
Again, this would have been on March 24th, 2014, is that correct?
The date that it went into FedEx,
That you
yes.
submitted it.
Yes,
And can you tell us what did you submit or send to JPAC
sure.
through FedEx?
Okay, so submitted the 2 fragments of the lower jawbone with teeth. Also, there were 2 other teeth that were recovered by someone else, as well as 2 other bone fragments, excuse me, 3 other bone fragments that were also shipped over.
And I'm going to show you a series of photographs of this time.
Just give me 30 seconds to do it. You sure? Because it's on, it's in your papers.
Your Honor, may I publish what has already been admitted to evidence, State's Exhibit 236 and 238?
Yes.
Thank you. You could say there, Mr. Earl, I'm showing you what is already in evidence of State's Exhibit 236. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And when you said you submitted one bone fragment to the JPAC department, is this one of the fragments?
Actually, 3 bone fragments were sent, and then this is one, yes.
Yeah, is this one of the 3 fragments?
Yes, it is.
And showing you State's Exhibit 238. Is this the same fragment or no?
Yes, it is. It's just flipped over.
All right, so this is one of the 3 fragments.
Yes.
And showing you State's Exhibit, you know, permission to publish State's Exhibits 232 and 234.
Permission granted.
Okay, you just testified that you also submitted 2 pieces of a jawbone or the mandible, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And showing you State's Exhibit 232, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and is this one of them that was sent over?
Yes, it was.
Now, when you sent it over, was it in this condition or had it changed at that point?
It had not changed, no.
Okay, so it still had what you described earlier as some dirt and tissue still connected to the...
Yes, it did.
And showing you State's Exhibit 234. Is that the other piece that you would have sent over?
Yes, it is.
And you testified that the 2 jawbones had teeth. Are these the teeth you're referring to?
Yes.
And as far as this Exhibit 234, was it also in the condition that we're looking at here now?
Yes, it was.
With some of the tissue as well as dirt or debris on it?
Yes, it was.
And Your Honor, showing, asking permission to publish State's Exhibit. And this time I'll be showing counsel what is marked for identification as State's Exhibit 234, I'm sorry, 243, 244, and 245. You know, may approach with
You
exhibits
may.
243 to 245, thank you. And they've been marked for identification. Mr. Rose, if you could please take a look at the exhibits I've just mentioned.
Okay.
Do you recognize the exhibit that is depicted or do you recognize the photographs in exhibits 243 to 245 of exhibit marked for identification?
Yes, I do.
What do they show?
These are a bone fragment I photographed in the morgue, and it's just different views of the same bone fragment.
And you testified that you had submitted 3 bone fragments to JPAC for anthropological analysis. Is this another one of the 3?
This is, yes.
And the photographs, do they accurately depict the bone fragment when you first viewed it within the morgue back in February of 2014?
Yes, they do.
Have they been changed or altered in any way?
No, sir.
Your Honor, this time the state will move into evidence states exhibit 243 to 245 inclusive, which have been marked for identification.
Mr. Rocco.
No objection.
States exhibits 243, 244, and 245 marked for identification purposes are received in evidence.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach your retrieve it?
Yes. And if you wish to publish, you may do so.
Thank you. May Mr. Earl step down, Your Honor, and
Yes,
just
you may
address
step
the
down.
monitor?
And you may use the pointer.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Mr. Earl, showing you first states exhibit 243. What are we looking at here?
Okay, this is a close-up view of that bone fragment. Again, with a L-shaped scale. This is taken in the morgue, and the bone fragment is laying on a white paper towel.
And showing you states exhibit 244.
Okay, 244 is the same bone fragment, but now it has just been flipped over, so you can see the other side. And again, you have the L-shaped scale to give you a reference. Those are in centimeters.
And states exhibit 245.
In this image, the bone fragment is being held so you can see the side view of the same bone fragment. So all 3 of those are the same bone fragment, but different views of it.
Yeah, thank you. Please have a seat. Your Honor, at this time, the state will be showing counsel what has been marked for identification as state's exhibits 248, 248A, 249, and 250.
That's the other pieces.
And Your Honor, permission to approach Mr. Rose with the exhibits I've just mentioned.
Permission granted.
Thank you. And Mr. Rose, I'm going to have you take a look at the exhibits that I've just mentioned, and they've been marked for identification.
Okay.
And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
And what do they show?
These are photographs of a tooth that was photographed in different positions so you can see all different angles of the tooth.
And was this one of the teeth that was submitted to JPAC with the other material or the other items you mentioned?
Yes, it was.
And do they actually depict the tooth when you did you take those photographs?
Yes, I did.
Do they actually depict the tooth when you photographed them back in February of 2014?
Yes, they do.
And have those photographs been changed or altered in any way?
No, they do not appear to be.
Your Honor, this time the state would move into evidence states exhibits 248, 248A, 250, or 249 and 250, marked identification.
Mr. Eckel?
No objection, Your Honor.
State's exhibits 248, 248A, 249, and 250 are received in evidence. If you wish to publish, you may do so.
Okay, and you can sit right there. I'm going to publish it on the screen. Turning your attention to the screen, first State's Exhibit 248. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what are we looking at here?
So this is a photograph, close-up of one view of the same tooth, and it has a scale along the bottom in centimeters.
And when you sent it off to JPAC, was it in substantially this condition?
Yes, it was.
Had you washed it off or cleaned it off?
No, sir.
And looking at 248A,
248A is another photograph just showing close-up of the surface of that same tooth.
and State's Exhibit 249.
249, the tooth has been flipped over, so it's a different view of the same tooth.
And State's Exhibit 250.
250, it's being held up with forceps or tweezers, and it is so you can see the surface, the biting surface of the tooth.
Now the forceps or tweezers that is shown depicted in this photograph, is that light blue in color? Is that the accurate color?
Yes, light blue plastic.
And when you use this forceps, did you create or make any markings on the tooth that's depicted in State's Exhibit 250?
No, as a matter of fact, that's why we use plastic, so that it will not make any marks on any of the items that we're handling.
With respect to the two pieces of jawbone, did you make any marks or any marks on the jawbone before you sent that off to JPAC?
No, I did not.
Yeah, this would be a good time to break.
All right, we'll take our lunch recess at this time, or reconvene at 1:30. Thank you very much.